pair of legs as white as jade suddenly appeared. The woman trapped in the car, trembling with fear. The number of bullets left in her gun was very few. Looking around, she saw only pitch blackness. The monster hidden in the darkness could launch a deadly attack at any moment. A deep sense of despair was within her. Recalling the events of the day, her heart was filled with regret. Her name was Juliet. Due to the catastrophe 10 years ago, the entire world had become desolate with very few survivors remaining. The protagonist, Juliet, was fortunate to join a group of survivors. Her daily job was to gather supplies scattered everywhere. She not only had to be cautious of other survivors, but also had to be wary of the biohumans everywhere. According to the organization's rules, if one encounters a biohuman, they must retreat immediately because their ferocity is something humans cannot withstand. It seems that Juliet intends to return empty-handed today as well. But as she was about to turn back, she accidentally spotted a broken-down camper van. Bloodstains were scattered in the vehicle, and the owner was lying on one side, dying. He had been attacked by a biohuman. The dying owner warned that the biohuman was trapped. Inside the vehicle, unfortunately, there were still many cans of food that hadn't been used. Juliet was moved in the apocalypse. These supplies were extremely valuable, entirely worth the risk for her taking a deep breath. Juliet unlocked the car door. Following that, the sound of a fierce fight emanated from inside the vehicle. Not long after Juliet successfully killed the biohuman, but unfortunately the car owner had lost too much blood and died. The canned goods became her spoils. By this time, the sun had set, and Juliet returned to the camp before nightfall. Perhaps because of her good mood, she couldn't help glance a few more times at the group photo on the car Suddenly, window. The photo was blown away by the wind, and Juliet instinctively jerked the steering wheel. As a result, the car tipped over on the roadside. When she regained consciousness from the coma, she found her right leg trapped in the steering wheel. The surroundings were pitch black, with only the car's lights emitting a faint glow. Juliet didn't expect to have been unconscious for so long. Staying overnight in the wilderness during the apocalypse is extremely dangerous. She intended to call someone at the camp yet, but kept pressing the radio without any response. Staying stuck here indefinitely was definitely not an option. Juliet looked around and noticed a pistol had fallen not far away. She casually picked up an iron hook, intending to pull the gun back, but the wire slipped off at the crucial moment. Seeing that this method didn't work, took a deep breath and decisively yanked her injured leg out from the steering wheel. A heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching pain surged through her. But Juliet didn't dare to scream out loud. She hurriedly took off her coat and poured high-proof alcohol on the wound to disinfect it. The bone-chilling pain almost made her faint. She gritted her teeth and pressed hard with both hands, finally managing to set the broken bone back in place. Her cries of pain echoed through the wilderness. Fortunately, the catastrophic effort finally yielded results. Juliet tried to move her body to find a new battery. After preparing the radio, she hurriedly called back to the camp. But unfortunately, there was still no response from the other side. At that moment, a chilling screech came from outside the vehicle. Juliet turned her head to look back. Clearly seeing that a biochemical person was approaching, she immediately picked up the gun from outside. The next moment, a monster approached. Juliet hid inside the car, not daring to make a sound, her hands tightly gripping the gun. Fortunately, the monster did not detect her presence. But at that moment, the radio suddenly went off. Juliet felt that this was a harbinger of disaster. Without hesitation, she threw it out of the car. Although she successfully diverted the monster's attention, she missed a great opportunity to call for help. Watching the monster move away, Juliet breathed a sigh of relief. But with only a few bullets left in the gun, she still didn't dare to let her guard down. Casually opening the glove compartment, besides a flashlight, she found a few glow sticks. Juliet thought for a moment and then threw a few sticks outside. She quickly found the radio that the monster had thrown away. This was Juliet's only chance to escape danger. But just as she picked up the radio, a noise came from behind. She picked up a glow stick to try to locate the source of the sound, only to find the monster lying in wait on the car Juliet roof. Hurriedly fired a shot, taking the opportunity to crawl back to the driver's seat. At least here, she didn't have to worry about being attacked unexpectedly. From both sides, the woman raised her aiming gun at the door, when suddenly an arm tore through the protective layer. Juliet quickly pulled herself back into the car, but her calf was grabbed by the opponent. In a critical moment, she started the car and pressed the accelerator. The monster let out a miserable cry. As it was forced back by the wheel, Juliet once again escaped from danger. She stuck her head out to check the situation, not expecting the monster to crawl crawl in from the back. Juliet continuously pulled the trigger, finally managing to push the monster back. She waited for a long time. Hearing no more movement, she reassembled the radio, finally making contact with her team. But unfortunately, Juliet did not know her exact location. Her teammates reminded her to turn on the vehicle's locator device. The radio signal was weak, so Juliet decisively hung up and directly took down the locator device. Following the instructions on it, she managed to activate the navigation system. Juliet felt much more at ease next. She just needed to wait for the rescue to arrive. She used the steel plate to block the window as the monster pressed its face against it. Realizing the creature was about to break in, Juliet braced the steel plate with her foot. After an unknown amount of time, the monster let out a groan and then ran away. But the woman didn't dare to relax even for a moment. She knew the monster hadn't gone far. Footsteps occasionally echoed around. Juliet tensely raised her gun. Staying alert. Suddenly, the vehicle shook violently. Clearly, the monster was trying to break in. Juliet's nerves were stretched to the limit. She even considered the idea of giving up at this moment. The radio transmitted the voice of Juliet's teammate like a lifeline. Knowing that the others had received the location information and were quickly on their way, the woman felt a wave of relief. But soon after, the teammates also noticed the noise on this side. Knowing there was a monster nearby, the teammates reminded Juliet to use strong light. That was one of the few weaknesses of the biochemical creature. Juliet followed the advice and quickly turned on the car's headlights. The monster let out a pitiful screech and quickly disappeared without a trace. When everything returned to quiet, Juliet asked her teammates when they could arrive. However, the teammates said that before dawn, they would not come to rescue because according to the organization's regulations, no one is allowed to proactively approach the biochemical creatures. Activity area, Juliet couldn't help but curse, clearly seeing this as an excuse for their cowardice. The teammates didn't explain and directly hung up the phone. Juliet's entire heart sank into an abyss in an instant. In this situation, she basically couldn't hold out until morning. Suddenly, the sound of a car engine came from outside. Juliet hurriedly honked the car horn. Not long after, a tricycle stopped. But the person she was waiting for wasn't the savior. Coming to take her life, Juliet fought back fiercely, using both her hands and feet. Just as both sides were in a standoff, a biochemical person suddenly appeared, directly pulling the thug out and crushing his head. Juliet was utterly astonished. She knew that her current safety was only temporary. After the biochemical person finished with the thug, it would eventually come for her. Thinking of the teammates who abandoned her, Juliet slowly raised her gun. She would rather die than become food for the monster. In the moment close to death, beautiful memories quietly resurfaced in her mind. Time went back to a day before the disaster. Juliet accidentally met a charming man at the art exhibition. His name was Jack, and he was the organizer of this exhibition. To seize the opportunity to date Juliet, he even ended the exhibition earlier than planned. The more they talked, the more they got along. Juliet, as if under a spell, went to Jack's house. But just as they were about to take things further, Juliet, like a mouse whose tail had been stepped on, suddenly ran away without any warning. Jack, puzzled by 100 questions, quietly followed her. It was then that he discovered Juliet was a worldly living on the fringes of society. Her life was filled with drugs and debauchery. Juliet knew she was fundamentally unworthy of Jack, so she promptly cut off the possibility of their relationship. Going any further, however, Jack did not despise her. On the contrary, he showed great tolerance and patience. He used his gentleness and kindness to melt her long, cold heart, rekindling her hope in life. Unfortunately, happiness was fleeting. All over the world, unexpected biochemical attacks occurred, and Jack was unfortunately injured in an explosion. When Juliet saw her boyfriend again, he was lying on a hospital bed, dying. Even so, he made every effort to write a few words on a drawing board. I love you. Never give up. Juliet was choked with emotion and couldn't speak. She could only nod firmly. It was because of this promise that she had survived so resiliently. Until now, in the apocalypse. Thinking of this, she slowly lowered her gun. Even for her deceased boyfriend, Juliet would fight to the end. She took a torch and crawled out of the car with a can of gasoline. Finding a suitable spot, Juliet poured out almost all the gasoline. Then lit the torch not long after. The monster, attracted by the flame, slowly appeared. Juliet steadied her breath and stepped back, waiting for the monster to get close to the gasoline can. She pulled the trigger without hesitation. A fierce flame erupted, but unfortunately, the monster quickly dodged it. In the next moment, it circled behind Juliet and attacked repeatedly, causing her to fall to the ground. Just as the monster was closing in, Juliet seized the opportunity to pull the trigger. Several gunshots rang out in succession. The monster fell to the ground in pain. Juliet also collapsed from exhaustion, her eyelids drooping as dawn broke. Juliet awoke from her coma to find the creature was still alive. She raised a gun to shoot, but she was out. Juliet's whole body trembled. She thought she was going to die. But unexpectedly, the monster did not attack and instead gently stroked her cheek. Juliet suddenly felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She realized that the person lying in front of her was not a monster, but her boyfriend Jack, whom she had always longed for. The woman could never forget the gentle gestures her boyfriend had once shown her at this moment. Juliet finally understood everything. The thug from last night was just trying to get into the car without actually attacking. But towards the robbers who wanted to harm her, it displayed extreme ferocity. It turned out that her boyfriend Jack had always been silently protecting her. The two embraced tightly in the dawn, feeling the warmth they had long missed. Perhaps, as Jack had said, every encounter is the best arrangement, even if fate decided they couldn't be together. In the end, the love Jack had for her would never die. Now heaven has given them the chance to meet again. Juliet absolutely will not miss it. This time they will live and die without parting. The above is the entire content of the movie Hostel. Thank you for your attention and following. Goodbye and see you again.